You're asleep in a tent somewhere out in the woods, the real kind of sleep, the kind where your body's heavy and your mind's checked out completely. You're breathing slow and even. The sleeping bag feels warm against your skin, and that thin nylon above you is so close you can almost feel the cool air pushing through it from the outside. Something's moving out there in the dark. Not loud, just enough that if you were awake, you'd probably notice. Whatever it is already knows you're in here. It can smell what you had for dinner hours ago. It can hear the slow rhythm of your breath. And right now, you're not really a person to it. You're just warm, soft, and completely unaware. By every rule that should exist out there, something should come for you, but almost nobody ever gets taken like that. You wake up the next morning, unzip the tent, step out, stretch, make coffee like it's the most normal thing in the world. So what's actually going on? It's not luck, and it's not because the animals out there are just full or lazy that night. There's something else holding the line, something that's been in place for a very long time. You could think of it as a kind of old, unspoken understanding between us and the wild. Not something anyone planned. It just sort of got worked out over thousands of years of living in the same places. We changed how they behave, they changed how they respond to us. And a lot of that old arrangement is still running every time you go to sleep with nothing but a piece of fabric between you and the dark. What I want to do is look at the different pieces of that arrangement. Some of it goes way back, before we even had words for it. Some of it has to do with things you carry with you without realizing. How you smell, how you sleep, the fact that you're usually not alone. And some of it has to do with choices we made as a species a long time ago that still shape how big predators move around us today. It's not a simple story, but once you start seeing how the pieces connect, that strange feeling you sometimes get lying in a tent at night starts to make a different kind of sense. The oldest part of this has to do with something we don't usually think about ourselves. For most of human history, we weren't the ones being hunted. We were the ones doing the hunting, and we were going after animals that could have easily killed us. A lot of the really big, powerful animals that used to exist started disappearing not long after people showed up in their territory. Mammoths, giant sloths, cave bears, saber-toothed cats. These weren't weak animals. They'd survived ice ages. But once humans arrived, a lot of them were gone within a few thousand years. The predators that are still around are the ones whose ancestors learned something important. The ones that were too bold around humans didn't make it. Either they got killed or they couldn't find enough to eat after being pushed out. The ones that kept their distance survived, and they passed that caution down to their offspring. You can still see it today. Researchers in California once played normal human voices near mountain lions, just regular talking. The lions didn't just get nervous. Some of them left kills they'd already made. Same thing shows up with lions in Africa, tigers in India, jaguars in the Amazon. Where people have been around for generations, the big predators treat us differently. They've learned we're not worth testing. So when something picks up your scent at night, there's still this old signal somewhere in its system telling it to be careful. It's not a conscious thought. It's just carrying something its ancestors figured out the hard way. But it's not only about what we used to do to them. There's also the fact that we just don't smell right to them. If you think about it, to a predator, you probably smell like a strange mix of things that don't belong together. The nylon of the tent, whatever soap or shampoo you used, the food you brought with you, maybe some insect repellent. None of that exists in the wild. So when they catch your scent, it doesn't line up with anything they're built to hunt. It just registers as something off. And most animals are careful around things that feel off. Then there's fire. Almost every land animal has some kind of reaction to smoke. It's not something they learn, it's just there. Humans have been sleeping next to fire for longer than we've been farming or building houses. The smoke basically says something that can control fire is here, and the animals that stuck around learned to listen to that. What's interesting is how careful predators actually are. They can't afford to get hurt. A bad injury out there usually means starving to death slowly, so they don't like uncertainty. A sleeping human is full of unknowns. You might wake up yelling. There might be tools nearby. There might be other people who wake up too. Even the way we stand on two legs can look threatening to some animals, like we're trying to look bigger. It's a lot of risk for something they don't fully understand. And then there's how we sleep. It's not as deep as it feels. Your brain still keeps some kind of watch even when you're out. In the lighter parts of sleep, it's still listening for things that don't sound normal. That's probably why we don't sleep as heavily as some other animals. The ones who slept too deeply back then didn't last long enough to pass it on. Plus, you're almost never sleeping completely alone. Predators are good at noticing when something is by itself. A single person is one thing. A group of people is different. If one of you wakes up and starts making noise, the rest usually follow. That turns a quiet situation into something loud and messy fast. Most predators would rather not deal with that. None of these things were designed on purpose. They just ended up working together over a very long time. Of course, none of this means you're completely safe. People still get attacked sometimes. But when it happens, there's almost always something that went wrong with the usual setup. The Tsavo lions that killed all those railway workers in Kenya were both in rough shape. One of them had badly damaged teeth and couldn't hunt properly anymore. The Champawat tiger had been shot in the mouth years earlier. Its teeth were broken. It couldn't take down its normal prey, so it started going after whatever it could actually catch. In most cases where a big predator goes after someone who's sleeping, the animal is either injured, starving because its territory got destroyed, old and weak, or it's gotten used to people leaving food around. When those things happen, the normal rules get broken. When the predator is healthy and the world around it is still working the way it should, those attacks are extremely rare. But there's something bigger happening underneath all of this. The fear we created in these animals doesn't just protect us when we sleep. It changes how entire ecosystems work. When mountain lions avoid areas where people spend time, the deer in those places have less pressure on them. Their numbers go up, and they eat more of the young plants and trees. At the same time, smaller predators like coyotes and bobcats also stay away from people. And when they do, the rodents they usually control start increasing. All of it shifts. Not because we're directly killing everything, but just because our presence makes the big predators behave differently. That change moves through everything else that lives there. We're the species that made the wild afraid of us, not by fighting it constantly, but by being here long enough that the caution became part of how everything else moves. And that's still happening, even while you're lying there asleep. That low feeling you sometimes get when you're lying in a tent at night. That small tightness in your chest when something moves outside. That's not weakness. It's an old system that's still running. The same one that kept people alive long before there were tents or flashlights or any of this. It's been tested for a very long time. And most nights, whatever's out there has already made its decision. It smelled you, it heard you, it knows you're there, and it's choosing to stay away. Not because it couldn't reach you if it wanted to, because somewhere in how it's built, it knows you're not worth the trouble. If you've ever felt that exact feeling while camping, that strange mix of being small and somehow protected at the same time, I'd like to hear about it. Tell me where you were and what was moving around out there. If any of this changed how you think about that moment, hit like. It helps other people find it too. And if you want to keep looking at these older, quieter parts of how we fit into the world, subscribe. I'll keep digging into them. The dark already decided about you a long time ago. Sleep well inside that decision.